Good morning, Halfdan. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you, Ruth?
I'm doing okay. How's the weather in Johannesburg?
It's cold as always. Yeah. I'm not used to this. I've been too many years in Mozambique, so it's very cold.
Oh man. But thank you for allowing us this opportunity to get to know more about you and the work you do within the Vid School of Governance. Maybe just as an opening, could you please tell me more about who is Halfdan, your background in terms of where you come from, how you grew up, the kind of studies you pursued in your younger years, and then we can build up from there.
Okay. Well, my name is Halfdan Lynge. I'm a senior lecturer at the School of Governance, where I teach mainly political economy and quantitative methods. I was born and raised in Denmark and did my undergraduate and my master's degree at the University of Copenhagen in political science. And then I spent about, I think, 5 years almost working for the UN as a governance specialist and later on as a policy advisor to the UN representatives in Mozambique and Bangladesh, and I was in Ethiopia for a little bit. I then left the UN and decided to pursue a PhD. And that really changed my professional life quite a bit. While I was doing my PhD, I started a small data science technology startup and I ran that for a couple of years. And after I finished my PhD, I then decided to pursue a career in academia and ended up at the School of Governance.
Oh, wow. So in Denmark, just tell me a little bit more about, what was the key moment in your upbringing, what's the best memories you have of your childhood, and how did that shape who you've become?
I grew up in a very ordinary provincial middle class industrial town in northern Denmark. Not very exciting. Imagine sort of a heavy industry. Yeah, really not very exciting. And I always grew up with a longing of I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to experience different things. And I think that sort of put me in direction of social science broadly and perhaps political science, economics more specifically, because I was curious about the world. I wanted to learn about the world. And of course, that led me. I actually spent a couple of years also working with the Danish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I think that really opened up my horizons. And I realized that, I grew up in a very, very remote, small place in Denmark, but the world is much bigger than that, and there's so many things to experience and so many things to see. So, I think that curiosity about the world is really what drove me, and here I am, far away from where I grew up, but I'm enjoying it. It's been a fascinating journey. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this PhD, where did you do it, and how long was your studies, and that whole experience? Please let us know more about what got you to do the PhD
Yeah.
you were working on and where you were.
Yeah. So I did my PhD at the University of Oxford in the UK, and it was a big contrast. Again, I was working for the UN, and I was on my way, but the United Nations is a very bureaucratic machinery, and I got increasingly frustrated with. I felt I spent more time, with Excel spreadsheets and budgets and procurement processes, and I missed the substantial content of my work. So that's why I sort of inspired me I resigned from a very very good job with the UN. I resigned and went back to a university. Of course, it was a big contrast. You come from a professional environment, and there's a certain status with having a high profile job, and then you're back to school and you were really back as a student. So of course it was a big shift, but I'm happy I did it because it really changed the course of my professional life afterwards. The journey itself was also it was tough. It was long for me. It took me about 6 years because I was unfortunately not smart enough to get a full scholarship. So I had to work part-time while I was doing my PhD. And of course, that places, you know, you have your supervisor asking you for chapters, asking for research output, and then you have obligations. I was working mainly as a consultant for different projects, and of course, you know, that's what pays your bills. So you have to balance a lot of things. No, it was a very long and at times very painful journey for sure.
And what topic were you working on, and how did you find this area of study, build it up into a full PhD project, which I think is something often people struggle with at the beginning of that journey?
Yeah.
How did you make up all this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say the first topic, because my topic also changed several times during the course of my research. The first topic, I started out, of course, coming out of the UN. I was interested in electoral processes and how electoral processes can be assisted and what generates positive outcomes and what generates negative outcomes. But that gradually evolved from being a focus on sort of electoral assistance, electoral observations, to being more political behavior around elections, and drifted slowly because I realized, well, often what happens is that politicians don't necessarily win elections on election day. They win it much before or much after. That sort of triggered interest in public spending, public policy, how politicians use public resources to optimize their chances of winning elections. So it really, there was a sort of a progression, and I ended up quite far from where I started. But in my head, it all makes sense, but I'm sure if you saw the first draft and the last draft, you wouldn't really see what the connection is. But I think a lot of people have this kind of experience. You start with one thing, you end up somewhere else, and that's just part of the process of sort of your academic and intellectual curiosity just evolves.
And what would you say were your biggest great moments in this journey that defined the positive thinking and the ability to carry on with the project, where you're saying it took you 6 years? So what is it that kept you going? How did you work it through?
I think for me it was important to have a good supervisor who understood. I had a supervisor who understood my reality and understood that I had, I could not dedicate 100% of my time to his requests. So that level of understanding, not just of the research, but of the person behind and of the sort of the context within which you are trying to complete your research. So that was important for me. Another thing is, I mean, because of my professional obligations, I couldn't spend much time in Oxford at the university with other PhD students, and that made it also at times very lonely journey, because I was sitting, by myself with my laptop, or and that makes it difficult. So I would say that to have a good supervisor, and also to have then some kind of connection to other PhD students who are going through the same processes, who are going through the same emotions, the same frustration. For me, that was very important. And I think I drew energy from other PhD students by realizing, you know what, okay, I'm not enjoying my project right now. It's painful, but I'm not the only one who's struggling. It is normal. Everyone will struggle in these processes. So yeah, again, build an environment around yourself of people who can support you, people who understand you, because your partner, your parents, your brother, your sister, your friends, unless they've done a PhD, they don't really know how painful it is and how much of a struggle it can be. So I think it's important to link up with other PhD students, other academics who understand what it means.
Oh, wow. That's quite an insightful input, the need for that big network where you can draw different resources to strengthen your journey as you're going through is quite really important to note. And I'm just wondering, how then would you describe the PhD journey, its evolution and your evolution as a being? How did that, create Halfdan as we see now, in your own views?
Well, I mean, in my case, it had a very significant impact because, so again, my PhD project started out as something qualitative, but it gradually evolved into a mainly quantitative study. And that required me to build up skills in the area of quantitative methods, statistics, data science, and it opened up something that it triggered an interest that I didn't realize I had. And I realized that it was something I felt passionate about, and that has really changed my professional life after it, because that is what encouraged me to start working for this small data science technology startup. I became interested in how technology and data can change public policy processes, and it inspired me to get involved in this space. And also, yeah, as I said in the beginning, I now teach quantitative methods, and it's something I'm very passionate about. So it had a very direct impact, and it changed my professional life quite significantly, beyond just pursuing an academic career. Even substantively, it has influenced my research interest, and yeah, so big impact.
Oh, so you find yourself now as quite a data enthusiast, academic who found meaning through the PhD process, which I think people tend to say, more than anything, that journey gives you the space to look back at yourself and ask the question, who am I and why am I doing this? And in defining that, you find a bigger purpose around the work that you'll be doing, which I think is what has become of you. Thank you so much for those inputs. I'm just now curious to find out, what were the down moments? People say there are dark days in life.
Yeah.
Now, through this journey, what were those dark days like?
I mean, there were many. There were very many, and I mean, of course, there were. Again, I mentioned before, trying to balance your research, your PhD research, with a professional life and having to pay your bills. I mean, that is in itself very stressful. Then the loneliness. I felt very lonely because often I was far away, and other PhD students were, back in Oxford where I was supposed to be, but I was sitting in another country by myself with my laptop, and it felt very, very lonely and stressful. And yeah, then you have, your personal life happens. Towards the end of my PhD project, I lost a close family members, and when these things happen, it also puts things into perspective, and you start questioning, is it worth it? I'm spending all these days, hours, nights, months in front of my laptop, and you start questioning the value of it. So no, it's tough. It's tough, and it's tough at so many levels. So again, I think it leads back to my point before about make sure you have people around you who can support you and who understand your journey and understand what you're going through, and who can support you and encourage you. I think that's important.
Wow. Thank you so much for opening up about the tough times you had to go through this journey. It really does give us perspective that life still happens even if you're pursuing a PhD, and there's some need to find more balance in some ways, such that you can survive and still live after the PhD. Now, who has Halfdan become after the PhD in terms of the research that you're working on, and what is it that excites you, areas you'd want to work more with students if you to be supervising?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little perhaps two interconnected streams. I mean, I'm generally broadly interested in how these how politics affects public policy. I mentioned it before when I was telling about my PhD, but how these cost-benefit calculations of politicians who sometimes only think about, optimizing their own position and optimizing the chance of winning election, but how that shapes public policy, how it influences the decisions they take while in office. So I'm broadly interested in that space. Personally, I've looked most at economic policy, so how politicians' personal interest in politician affects economic policy, but generally I'm interested in this space. Then I would say the other stream of my research has to do with exactly data science and technology and its application to public policy, because, you know, data and data science and technology, it's really changing everything around us, and it is going to change. It is changing, and it's going to change how public policy is developed and monitored. And this is something I'm really excited about and really interested in. And there's a lot of things happening right now in South Africa and across the continent. And I feel that we haven't fully understood the significant impact. We haven't fully understood what will come out of it. What will public policy look like when we have gone through this transformation? So the two things are perhaps two different streams, but they are connected simply because data also becomes a commodity, and data is knowledge, and it's knowledge that politicians can use also for their personal interest. So it's two streams, but they're definitely connected as well.
Oh, wow. This is quite interesting. And you know, given the current COVID crisis, there's a lot of work to be done. And I can really see the impact that your expertise brings to the intellectual project at hand. So really, wow, I'm thrilled by the work that you're doing. I don't know, any exciting message or, you know, word of encouragement to the incoming research degree cohort? You know, they're quite new, fragile, and probably in a position you were once in at some point. What would you tell them which wish you knew beforehand?
That's a good question. I first of all, I mean, of course, I want to congratulate you on taking this decision. Just starting a PhD is already an important decision, and it's a big step. Then I would say, remember to. It sounds ridiculous, but remember to enjoy it also. Remember that this is not just about, you know, achieving a title and becoming a doctor and the prestige that comes with that. You have to get more out of it. It has to, you see it as an opportunity to really dig in and find something that you're really passionate about, something that you're really curious about. And this is an opportunity to really dig in and learn and give yourself time to learn, and give yourself time and let yourself, you know, let your intellectual curiosity, allow yourself your intellectual curiosity to develop and evolve. I think that's important. So it sounds perhaps a little naive when you're starting this, but really I think it's very important, because it's gonna be tough. It's a long journey. It's a painful journey at times. So it's important that you have passion and you have interest in what you're doing, because that's what will keep you going. Otherwise, if it's just to become a doctor, then, you know, it's unlikely you're going to make it. You have to be passionate about it.
Oh man, I now almost feel worried that this thing can be quite daunting, but I love the word of encouragement that you attach to it, that, you know what, it is rewarding at the end of the day if you just give yourself into it and take it in as much as possible. Wow. With those words, we would love to thank you for your time and the great inputs that you've shared with us. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Ruth, and good luck to all the new PhD students.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Take care.
Okay, bye.